Control your reactions means understanding that the world outside you is not fully in your hands, but what happens inside you always is. Events come and go. Words are spoken, people behave badly. None of these things automatically have power over you. The power appears only when you react without thinking. The Stoic way is to pause. Between what happens and how you respond, there is a small space. In that space lives your freedom. Toxic people look for quick reactions. They want to see anger in your face, fear in your voice, or confusion in your words. These reactions feed them. When you react fast, you hand them control. When you slow down, you take it back. Staying calm is not weakness, it is discipline. It shows that your emotions do not rule you. Controlling reactions does not mean you feel nothing. It means you choose what to do with what you feel. Anger may rise, but you do not let it drive your actions. Insults may hurt, but you do not return them. You acknowledge the feeling, then decide your response with reason. This is self-command. This is inner strength. Many people believe they must defend themselves immediately. They think silence means losing. The Stoic understands the opposite. Silence gives time. Time gives clarity. Clarity leads to better action. When you do not react right away, you can see the situation clearly instead of through emotion. You stop being pushed and pulled by others. Toxic people often repeat the same behavior. They provoke, criticize, or blame. When they see you react every time, they learn exactly which buttons to press. When you stop reacting, those buttons stop working. Confusion replaces their confidence. They no longer know how to reach you. Controlling reactions also protects your energy. Emotional reactions are exhausting. They drain your focus and steal your peace. When you stay calm, you save that energy for things that matter. You think better. You act with purpose. Your mind stays clear instead of clouded. The Stoic trains the mind daily. This training happens in small moments. Someone speaks harshly. You breathe instead of snapping back. Someone disrespects you. You stay steady instead of proving yourself. Over time, this practice becomes natural. Calm replaces impulse. It is important to understand that not every comment deserves a response. Not every attack needs defense. Often, reacting only gives life to something that would have died on its own. By choosing not to react, you let unnecessary conflict fade away. Control of reaction also means not reacting to praise too strongly. Praise can trap you just as much as criticism. If your mood rises and falls based on others' opinions, you are still not free. The Stoic stays balanced. Neither insult nor praise decides their worth. When you control reactions, people notice. Your calm presence changes the atmosphere. Others may feel uneasy because they cannot predict you. Toxic people especially fear this because unpredictability breaks manipulation. They rely on emotional patterns. Calm breaks patterns. This control is not about suppressing emotions. Suppression builds pressure. Control is about understanding emotions without obeying them. You watch them rise and fall like waves. You do not drown in them. Over time, this practice builds respect, even from those who dislike you. Calm strength commands attention without demanding it. You become someone who cannot be easily shaken. When you stop reacting automatically, you stop being controlled by outside forces, by words, by moods, by people, by moments that do not deserve your inner peace. Using silence as strength means understanding that words are not always necessary to show power. Many people believe strength comes from speaking more, explaining more, or defending more. The Stoic knows that unnecessary words weaken position. Silence keeps control in your hands. When you speak less, you reveal less. When you reveal less, others have fewer tools to use against you. Toxic people rely on conversation to manipulate. They twist words, change stories, and provoke reactions. Silence blocks this path. When you do not answer immediately, they cannot steer the exchange. They may push harder, asking questions or making accusations. Your silence forces them to face their own noise. Silence is not avoidance. It is a choice. It is the decision to not waste energy on what does not deserve it. The Stoic values time and attention as precious resources. Speaking without purpose spends both. Silence protects them. When someone tries to provoke you, silence removes the reward. Provocation fails without reaction. The toxic person expects defense or anger. When they meet calm silence, they feel unsettled. They may repeat themselves, grow louder, or change tactics. All of this reveals their weakness, not yours. Silence also creates space for observation. When you are quiet, you can see clearly. You notice tone, intention, and behavior. You learn who is speaking from reason and who is speaking from emotion. The Stoic listens more than they speak, because listening builds understanding. Many conflicts grow because people rush to fill silence. They fear being misunderstood or judged. The Stoic does not rush. They let silence work. Silence slows the moment. Slowness brings control. Control leads to wiser action. Silence shows confidence. Someone who is secure does not need to explain themselves constantly. They do not chase approval or correct every false statement. They trust their character to speak through actions. This quiet confidence unsettles toxic people because it cannot be attacked easily. Using silence also means knowing when words will only worsen a situation. Some people do not seek truth, they seek reaction. Speaking to them is like adding fuel to fire. Silence lets the fire burn out on its own. Silence gives emotional distance. When you stop talking, you stop feeding emotional cycles. Anger loses momentum. Drama fades. You return to balance faster. The Stoic seeks balance above victory. Silence often wins without fighting. In daily life, silence can be a pause before responding. It can be choosing not to comment on disrespect. It can be leaving a message unanswered. These small acts build inner strength. They train you to act instead of react. Silence also protects dignity. Harsh words spoken in emotion cannot be taken back. Silence prevents regret. It keeps your character intact. The Stoic values character more than momentary relief. Toxic people often confuse silence for weakness at first. They may push harder. Over time, they learn that silence is a wall. It does not bend. It does not argue. It does not break. They lose interest when control is impossible. Silence allows actions to speak. When you are quiet but consistent, people notice. Your behavior becomes your message. There is no contradiction. No explanation is needed. In a loud world, silence stands out. It signals self-control. It signals awareness. It signals strength without aggression. When you master silence, you decide when words matter and when they do not. And you stop giving your voice to those who do not deserve it. Setting clear boundaries without explaining means understanding that your peace is yours to protect. Many people feel the need to justify themselves when they say no or stop someone from crossing a line. They explain, they apologize, they overtalk, hoping the other person will understand or approve. The Stoic knows that true strength that does not come from seeking approval. It comes from holding firm and respecting your own limits. A boundary is not a suggestion. It is a line drawn to protect your mind, your time, and your energy. When you set it calmly and firmly, it communicates respect for yourself and for others. You do not need to give reasons. Explanations often invite debate. They create loopholes. They allow toxic people to argue, manipulate, or push further. A simple statement, "This is not acceptable," or "I cannot do that," is enough. Many people fear saying no because they imagine conflict. They worry about others' reactions. Toxic individuals exploit this fear. They test limits repeatedly, seeking weakness. When you set boundaries without excuses, you remove the fuel for their manipulation. You become immovable in a way that words cannot easily affect. Boundaries are also about consistency. Saying no once and yes the next time signals confusion. Toxic people notice inconsistency and exploit it. A clear boundary that is honored every time communicates strength silently, but powerfully. It shows that your rules are not negotiable. Your limits are not temporary. They are a part of your character, and character cannot be bullied. You do not need to justify your boundaries with long explanations, because your actions and decisions speak for themselves. Silence alongside a boundary is a form of authority. It signals that your peace is more valuable than someone else's attempts to control or guilt you. When you explain, you hand over part of your power. When you stand quietly, the power stays with you. Boundaries are also a tool of self-respect. Respecting yourself teaches others how to treat you. People do not respect what is unclear. They do not respect what is weak. Toxic individuals push against anything they perceive as weak or negotiable. Firm boundaries act as a shield, preventing intrusion and preserving dignity. Setting boundaries without explaining also prevents manipulation. Manipulation thrives on conversation. It thrives on your attempts to clarify or appease. When your response is calm, firm, and final, manipulators have nothing to work with. They cannot argue effectively against silence backed by consistency. They realize they cannot bend you with words or threats, which often makes them uncomfortable or fearful. Boundaries do not have to be confrontational. A quiet, firm refusal is enough. You can assert your limits politely but decisively. The tone matters more than the volume. Firmness with calmness communicates certainty. Certainty is what toxic people fear most because it cannot be unsettled. When you honor your boundaries, you prioritize what is truly important. Your time, energy, and attention go to things that matter, not to chaos, drama, or manipulation. The Stoic sees these as limited resources. Wasting them on toxic people is a choice, and choosing not to waste them is power. Many misunderstand boundaries as punishment. They are not. They are protection. They are an act of discipline. Setting boundaries trains your mind to recognize what serves you and what does not. It trains your heart to preserve calm in situations designed to provoke. Toxic people notice this strength, often before anyone else does. Over time, boundaries without explanation create freedom. You stop being pulled in multiple directions. You stop feeling guilt for saying no. You stop feeling trapped by the expectations of others. Your life becomes quieter, clearer, and more controlled. People learn to adjust, respect, or step away, and you stay centered regardless of their choice. Staying consistent in character means being the same person, regardless of circumstances or who is watching. Many people change their words, actions, or personality to please others, to gain approval, or to avoid conflict. The Stoic knows that true strength is not in appeasing others, but in being faithful to one's principles and values. When you stay consistent, you anchor yourself in reality, rather than in the opinions or moods of those around you. Consistency is not about stubbornness or rigidity. It is about alignment between what you believe and how you act. When you value honesty, you act honestly even when it is inconvenient. When you value patience, you remain patient even under pressure. Your actions reflect your internal standards, not the fluctuations of external circumstances. This alignment builds trust within yourself first, and then with others. Toxic people fear consistency because it cannot be manipulated. When they test you with lies, provocations, or false praise, your consistent behavior exposes their instability and unreliability. Toxic individuals often rely on unpredictability to gain control. They look for moments when your words do not match your actions, when your behavior changes depending on who is present, or when your standards fluctuate. Inconsistency is a door they can push through. When they see that you act the same way in every situation, regardless of stress, praise, or criticism, they realize that manipulation will not work. This realization makes them uneasy because their usual strategies fail. Consistency also protects your peace. People who shift with every opinion or situation live in constant tension, always reacting, always worrying about how they are perceived. By acting consistently according to your own principles, you stop giving power to external forces. You stop being a puppet of other people's moods or expectations. Your life becomes more predictable in a good way, and predictability fosters control and inner calm. Many people misunderstand consistency as repetition or boredom. It is neither. True consistency is a reflection of deliberate choice and conscious discipline. It is living in accordance with reason, not impulse. When challenges arise, a consistent person does not crumble, nor do they overreact. They respond according to their values and priorities. This makes them reliable, grounded, and difficult to unsettle. Toxic people sense this stability and fear it because it diminishes their ability to cause chaos or emotional disturbance. Consistency requires self-awareness. You must know what you stand for and why. Without this understanding, attempts at consistency become shallow or performative. The Stoic practices reflection daily, examining actions, thoughts, and reactions to ensure they align with inner principles. When you act from this awareness, consistency becomes natural. It is no longer a forced effort but a reflection of your integrity. Consistency also creates credibility. Words gain weight when actions match them. Others begin to trust you, and you trust yourself. This trust cannot be faked, and it cannot be easily shaken. Toxic people often attempt to undermine credibility by spreading misinformation or sowing doubt. When you are consistent, such efforts fail, because your record and your behavior speak louder than their claims. Living consistently requires patience. Results are rarely immediate. People may not notice your steadiness at first. Toxic individuals may test you repeatedly, hoping for a crack in your character. Each time you resist, your consistency strengthens, and the perception of your inner stability grows. Over time, it becomes obvious that your actions and values are aligned and unchangeable by outside pressure. Consistency is also a form of silent power. You do not need to boast, explain, or justify yourself. Your life and choices demonstrate strength quietly. Toxic people are unsettled by this because their usual tactics rely on confusion, chaos, and unpredictability. When you stay consistent, they cannot control your behavior, cannot manipulate your decisions, and cannot force you into reactions that serve them. This quiet, unwavering adherence to your principles communicates authority without words, making you respected and feared in subtle but profound ways. Seeking no validation means understanding that your worth does not depend on the opinions of others. Many people live their lives chasing approval, praise, or recognition. They measure themselves by likes, compliments, or acceptance. The Stoic knows that true freedom comes when external approval becomes irrelevant. When you no longer need validation, you act from your own reason, not from fear or desire to impress. Toxic people feed on the need for validation. They manipulate through praise or criticism, offering approval as a reward and withholding it as punishment. When you crave validation, you hand them control. Your mood, choices, and self-esteem become tied to their behavior. When you stop seeking approval, that control disappears. They cannot manipulate what does not depend on them. Seeking no validation requires deep self-awareness. You must know your values, principles, and limits. You must trust your own judgment and decisions. This does not mean arrogance or isolation. It means confidence rooted in reason and self-knowledge. When you trust yourself, you stop needing others to confirm your choices. Your life becomes guided by purpose, not by fleeting opinions. Many people mistake validation for feedback. Feedback can be useful, but validation is different. Validation seeks to confirm your worth. Feedback seeks to improve your action. A Stoic welcomes feedback when it serves growth, but ignores approval when it seeks to define character. Understanding this distinction is crucial for maintaining inner freedom and resisting manipulation. When you do not seek validation, you act with authenticity. Your words match your beliefs. Your actions align with your values. There is no performance, no need to please others, no mask to wear. Toxic people are unsettled by this authenticity because they cannot predict or control it. They rely on uncertainty, self-doubt, and compliance. Your independence removes their leverage. Not seeking validation also protects emotional energy. When your happiness and confidence depend on others, you live in constant fluctuation. Praise raises you, criticism drops you. Your inner peace becomes fragile. By relying on your own judgment, you maintain stability regardless of external circumstances. Your emotional energy is spent on meaningful actions, not on the opinions of those who seek to manipulate or distract you. The practice of ignoring validation is a daily exercise. When someone praises you, acknowledge it without letting it define your self-worth. When someone criticizes you, listen if there is value, but do not internalize negativity that is undeserved. Each moment of restraint strengthens your independence. Over time, the habit builds resilience and a quiet confidence that is difficult to shake. Toxic people often escalate when they sense independence. They may try harder to get a reaction or force approval through flattery or manipulation. When you remain unaffected, they become frustrated or fearful. Your calmness signals that you are not a tool to be controlled and that your self-worth is untouchable by their tactics. Seeking no validation also encourages focus on personal growth. Energy that would be wasted on pleasing others is redirected to learning, improvement, and meaningful action. The Stoic understands that character is built through discipline and reason, not by public praise. A life directed by internal values rather than external approval is stronger, freer, and less susceptible to disruption. Over time, refusing to seek validation cultivates humility and confidence simultaneously. Humility comes from knowing you do not need to dominate or impress to be worthy. Confidence comes from knowing your worth is inherent, stable, and independent of opinion. Toxic people feel this difference deeply. They sense that their usual strategies of control, flattery, or intimidation will not work. and this realization often creates unease, frustration, or fear because the leverage they rely on has vanished. Choosing distance over drama means understanding that not every conflict requires your presence. Many people feel obligated to engage in arguments, defend themselves, or explain their choices, even when doing so only increases tension. The Stoic knows that peace is more valuable than being right. By stepping back, by removing yourself from unnecessary conflict, you maintain control of your mind and preserve your energy. Distance is not weakness. It is strategy. It is self-respect in action. Toxic people thrive on chaos. They create arguments, spread rumors, provoke reactions, and escalate situations. They measure success by how much they can disturb your equilibrium. Engaging with them in the heat of emotion gives them exactly what they want. Distance interrupts this pattern. By refusing to participate, you take away the fuel that keeps their drama alive. Your absence becomes a barrier, a silent statement that their attempts to provoke will not succeed. Distance allows clarity. When you are too close to a situation, emotions can cloud judgment. Anger, frustration, or fear can distort perception and lead to impulsive responses. By stepping back, you create a mental space to observe objectively. You can see intentions, patterns, and consequences more clearly. You respond, if necessary, from reason instead of reaction, which is the core of Stoic practice. Choosing distance also communicates strength without aggression. A toxic person may try to provoke confrontation, but when you withdraw calmly, they cannot manipulate or control you. Silence and absence speak louder than words. They signal that you value your peace and will not surrender it to anyone, regardless of how loudly they demand attention. This non-engagement can be far more intimidating than any argument or display of force. Many misunderstand distance as avoidance. It is not about hiding from problems or responsibility. It is about prioritizing what deserves your attention. Some conflicts are meaningless, rooted in ego, manipulation, or petty disputes. Engaging in these situations only depletes energy and clouds judgment. By choosing distance, you preserve your resources for challenges that truly matter and avoid entangling yourself in unnecessary negativity. Distance also protects emotional stability. When you remove yourself from toxic interactions, you prevent emotional contagion. Anger, fear, and resentment often spread through prolonged engagement. By stepping away, you avoid being pulled into cycles of reaction. Your mind remains calm, your decisions clear, and your actions deliberate. This is a form of inner freedom that toxic individuals cannot penetrate. Practicing distance requires discipline. It is tempting to respond immediately, to correct perceived injustices, or to defend your reputation. The Stoic approach is patience. Observe, evaluate, and determine whether engagement is necessary. If it is not, remain silent and step back. Each act of restraint reinforces your self-mastery and diminishes the power others have over your emotional state. Distance can take many forms. It may be physical, such as leaving a room or avoiding certain spaces. It may be emotional, such as refusing to react to insults or manipulation. It may be digital, like not engaging in social media conflicts. All forms serve the same purpose: preserving your peace, maintaining control, and limiting the influence of toxic individuals in your life. Toxic people often escalate when met with distance initially because they expect conflict. They are used to being answered, challenged, or feared. When you do not respond, they are forced to confront the reality that you cannot be controlled. Over time, they may grow frustrated, confused, or retreat, recognizing that their usual tactics are ineffective. Choosing distance over drama is a long-term practice. It teaches patience, self-respect, and strategic thinking. It separates your energy from unnecessary conflict and strengthens your capacity to act deliberately. It also reshapes relationships. People begin to respect your limits, and toxic individuals learn that they cannot easily dominate or disturb you. Through distance, you reclaim autonomy over your attention, your emotions, and your life, creating a calm and controlled environment in which your actions and values guide your decisions, rather than the chaos imposed by others. Focusing only on what you control means understanding the limits of your influence and accepting reality as it is. Many people waste energy on things they cannot change. The opinions of others, the outcomes of events, or the actions of people around them. The Stoic understands that control begins with the self. Your thoughts, your choices, your reactions, these are yours and yours alone. Everything else is outside your direct influence, and trying to control it only leads to frustration and disturbance. Toxic people rely on the fact that others try to control what is uncontrollable. They provoke, manipulate, or threaten because they know many will react emotionally or try to force a desired outcome. When you focus solely on what you can control, their tactics lose power. Your attention is no longer on their words or actions, but on your own reasoning and choices. This shift in focus removes the leverage they depend on to create chaos or tension. Focusing on what you control requires constant self-awareness. You must observe your thoughts and emotions, noticing where you attempt to push against reality. Anger at unfairness, frustration at delay, or anxiety over outcomes, all of these are signs that your energy is being spent on the uncontrollable. By turning attention inward, you regain mastery over your mind. This internal focus creates resilience and stability in a world that often seems unpredictable. Many people confuse control with influence. Influence is external, it may or may not succeed. Control is internal, it is absolute. The Stoic prioritizes control over influence because influence is uncertain and fleeting. Worrying about influence wastes mental energy, while controlling your own mind guarantees clarity, calm, and deliberate action. By mastering internal control, you navigate life with confidence and avoid unnecessary entanglement in others' schemes or chaos. Toxic individuals test boundaries, manipulate emotions, and create conflict to provoke reactions. If you focus on what is beyond your control, such as their intentions, words, or behaviors, you become frustrated, reactive, and unstable. If you focus only on your own actions, decisions, and reactions, you maintain clarity and strength. You respond deliberately rather than impulsively. Your energy goes to productive action instead of fruitless worry or retaliation. Focusing on what you control also fosters patience and acceptance. You accept that some outcomes are not yours to dictate. You recognize that circumstances, luck, and the choices of others are beyond your authority. This acceptance does not mean passivity. It means working effectively where your effort can have impact. It allows you to act strategically and avoid emotional exhaustion caused by futile attempts to dominate situations or people outside your control. Practicing control requires daily discipline. Every time a stressful situation arises, a moment of anger or resentment emerges, or a toxic individual provokes you, pause and ask, what part of this can I truly control? Often, the answer is your own response. Focusing on that single, controllable element is the path to calm and power. By consistently applying this principle, it becomes a habit that reshapes the way you approach life. Focusing on what you control strengthens decision-making. When you are clear about where your authority lies, you act decisively without being swayed by fear, manipulation, or external pressure. You no longer waste energy attempting to fix what cannot be fixed. Your effort becomes directed and effective, creating results where possible and acceptance where necessary. This focus also reduces anxiety. Many people worry excessively about things they cannot change, future events, others' opinions, or uncontrollable circumstances. By limiting attention to your own actions, thoughts, and choices, you stop creating imagined crises and unnecessary tension. The mind becomes lighter, clearer, and more capable of deliberate action. Toxic people often sense when you have mastered control over yourself. They realize that their usual tactics, provocation, manipulation, guilt, or intimidation, will not work. They may escalate efforts initially, but consistent self-control demonstrates that you cannot be coerced or unsettled. By focusing on what you can control, you cultivate an inner fortress of calm, clarity, and resilience that cannot be breached by chaos, criticism, or manipulation, giving you freedom and strength in every interaction. Growing quietly and calmly means improving yourself without the need to announce it to the world. Many people feel pressure to show their success, achievements, or progress to gain recognition, admiration, or approval. The Stoic understands that true growth is measured by internal transformation, not external validation. Quiet growth allows you to focus fully on your actions, your discipline, and your character, rather than being distracted by appearances or the opinions of others. Toxic people often rely on comparison and judgment to assert control. They may mock, belittle, or compete to provoke insecurity or envy. When your progress is silent, they cannot measure it, manipulate it, or use it against you. Quiet growth protects your efforts from interference, criticism, or sabotage. It allows you to develop without creating unnecessary conflict or drawing attention to yourself, which can be a source of manipulation. Growing quietly requires patience. Personal development does not happen overnight. Skills, wisdom, discipline, and understanding are cultivated through consistent effort, reflection, and practice. By focusing on small, deliberate steps every day, you accumulate progress that may be invisible to others, but is deeply transformative internally. This slow, steady growth is more sustainable and resilient than growth driven by external recognition or competition. Calm growth also means avoiding the urge to boast or prove yourself. Many people announce their achievements as a way to secure respect or admiration. The Stoic knows that boasting diminishes authenticity and can attract envy, hostility, or manipulation. True progress does not require an audience. Your actions, decisions, and improved character speak for themselves. When others notice your growth, it is a natural acknowledgement, not a performance you orchestrated. Quiet growth requires focus on essentials. You prioritize effort on things that matter: skills, knowledge, character, habits, and values. You avoid distractions such as social comparison, public attention, or unnecessary validation. Every action is intentional and deliberate. By concentrating on the fundamentals, your progress becomes steady, meaningful, and deeply rooted, resistant to external turbulence or criticism. Calm growth builds resilience. When improvement is internal and steady, setbacks do not shake you. Failures are lessons, not defeats. Criticism is information, not judgment. Toxic individuals often attempt to destabilize others by highlighting weaknesses or mistakes. Quiet growth shields you from their tactics, because your sense of progress and worth is not dependent on their acknowledgement or approval. It is anchored within yourself. Growing quietly also cultivates humility. There is no need to compete or dominate to prove value. You understand that improvement is personal and continuous. The process is more important than recognition. This humility strengthens relationships because it reduces ego-driven conflict and attracts respect, rather than envy or resentment. Toxic people sense this calm confidence and often feel powerless, because their usual strategies of provocation or manipulation cannot shake you. Daily practice is key to quiet growth. Reflection, study, exercise, and skill development are all done with intention, not for show. Over time, habits solidify into character. Your actions align with your principles without external prompting. The Stoic sees every day as an opportunity to cultivate virtue, discipline, and wisdom. This consistency creates growth that is invisible at first but unmistakable over time. Growing quietly also involves patience with timing. External recognition, reward, or results may come later, but you do not rely on them to measure progress. Your focus is on mastery, not applause. You measure yourself against your past self, not others, which makes your improvement meaningful and resilient to criticism or comparison. Calm growth allows your life to speak on your behalf. When others notice your composure, skill, or achievements, it is a reflection of consistent effort, discipline, and self-mastery. Toxic individuals fear this because it cannot be undermined by gossip, provocation, or manipulation. Your strength grows internally, silently, and steadily, creating an aura of stability and power that cannot be shaken by noise or chaos.